It never occurred.
It just said broadcast is live when you said, "Oh, we're going to be talking about everyone."
Oh yeah, look. It says we're live right now. There we go.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knew?
Clearly, my dad just had to say something ridiculous.
No, I said I was joking. I said, "Oh, can we just start talking crap about people?"
After he was no. Well, we're live. Hello, everyone. This is Willow from the Goliath Foundation. I'm usually in the background, but I'm bursting out of my shell today to talk to these two awesome guys. Obviously, it's Bell Let's Talk Day, which is a pretty important day in the mental health space, especially the men's mental health space. That's our arena, as you probably know by now. But if you don't, we're in the men's mental health space. We just finished a cohort. It was a 12-week cohort with a bunch of really awesome guys. And being able to help people, and especially young men, BIPOC men, men in the foster care system, achieve a sense of happiness, especially now when things look to many people so dire, is that's our bread and butter, right? So Mr. Ben, Mr. James, would you guys like to quickly introduce yourselves, and then we'll get into it? I have a couple questions for these guys I'm excited about, and let's dive in. Mr. Benjamin.
Well, I'm just Trainer Ben. I'm everyday guy that kind of been in the trenches for a long time, my whole life, in a lot of different trenches. And I've figured some things out, and now I like to just kind of help people and pass it on, and just that's kind of what I do. That's what I love, just helping people feel better.
Nice. Obviously, I'm Ben's wingman in the Goliath Foundation and the work that we're doing as a coach, a speaker, and an author. I'm heart led. Always lead with love, and I think that's part of the work and part of what we're going to talk today about too. I think is this paradigm shift of men leading with love and men walking in a more graceful path in life and being okay with it. And we're excited to be here and excited to share some thoughts on this day. This is a very important day for all of us. Ben has his story. I have my story. Willow has her story. I mean, we all have a story, I think, that really anchors home today.
Cool. Thank you for that. Well, shall we dive in?
Let's dive in.
I don't know why I'm so excited. All right, let's grill these guys. Okay, how's your relationship with your father? No, I'm not gonna go that deep. But we are gonna go semi-deep, because the first question, I do want to just ask each of you to share a little bit about your own personal, I kind of hate the word journey now, but your personal adventure, your personal experiences in your own mental health, in your own life. I know you both have, like you said, we all have our stories, but James, do you want to open up that conversation, that can of worms?
Sure. Yeah. Ben and I, maybe news to everybody, but we've been around the block a few times. We're both roughly the same age in midlife, and I used to think that I grew up thinking that mental health was something that was labeled to a very specific type of stereotypical person suffering from a bunch of ailments, if you will, or conditions that deem them socially something awkward. What I don't even know, right? It just it was labeled in a box. And of course, as time goes on, it's become more apparent that it's a broad stroke with the brush that underneath that is so many things. And for me, walking now in the work that I do and the work that I've done on myself, I've come to realize that I've always struggled with self-worth, with definitely with depression, which caused me many times to always seek outside validation, to be associated with accolades in sports, fame, New York and LA, and things like that, that gave me a sense of purpose. And of course, as we know, that's a load of bullshit, right? So that's been an interesting journey. And then, really the culmination of that was 4 years ago when, I made a very powerful and impactful decision to leave my family and to go searching for myself. And there was a lot of mental health struggles with that, questions, dark nights, plural, of the soul, to get me to step in my truth and be the man I am today. And as we know, that walk is never ending. So there's for me, it's been quite it's been quite a ride. It's been quite a journey. And I've learned that mental health with me in some of those areas is a rhythm by which I operate. Some days it may have a little bit more of a symphonic beat than other days where it's just background noise. It's not even almost an inaudible thing. And some days it takes center stage that I have to deal with it. So, yeah, I mean, that's my gist for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. I think it's so important to hear that other people, that somebody else is going through what you're going through. And I mean, depression is something that you and I share, but it's, you're always going to look over your neighbor's fence and see that, their lawn is mowed. So you're like, oh, they're doing great. But somebody out there who's dealing with a lot of similar things might look at somebody like you and be like, no, like he's so together, he's so this. But just because someone's lawn is mowed doesn't mean that they've got it together, right? So
yeah, and I just want to add to that. I think the challenge for me, that some of the struggle was in recent years, is because this is how I show up. So I make a living working, helping others, holding space, being that rock, being that anchor. And there's the man behind the curtain some days is hanging on by his fingernails some days, right? In the past, especially a couple of years back, for sure, right? So that was always been a struggle too, I think, with people that, or maybe more of a challenge, or people that show up that have to put themselves out there too. So
yeah, interesting. Mr. Ben, would you like to share a little bit about your fun, lighthearted journey?
Well, I will say this, I think everybody that knows me, you will say this, Willow, James, you will say this in the time you've known me. You'd be you couldn't find anybody that wouldn't say that. For over 10 years, I've been just happy. I've been happy all the time. Like, I'm not always like at the top of the like as high happy as possible, but I'm always grounded. I'm always, it's good to be alive. I'm always at peace with myself. And I think that's really important to start with. I mean, anybody can hear my story. I mean, I've talked about it, but what the important points I want to say is, without going too far into my past, when I was 22, I was literally taken in an ambulance to a hospital for a suicide attempt, had my stomach pumped, had to see a counselor. So I've been there. And shortly after that, I literally woke up every day trying to convince myself that there was a reason not to put a bullet in my brain, like not to kill myself. I literally was hanging by a thread for so long, like literally just make it through another minute, make it through another minute, make it through another minute. And I went like that for probably a year before I started to pull myself out of it. And then I did well for a while, and then I fell back, and never quite to that level of like please God, like I can't do this anymore. Never quite to that level, but to the point where it's just like God, I need to be happy. I need to be happy. So I really, again, not going too much into my story. I think it's really important for people who see me every day, and they see me, and COVID happens and this happens, and I'm always looking on the bright side. I'm always happy. I'm always seeing things on the bright, on a good, in a good way, and I'm always happy to be alive. But I was that guy. I was in the ambulance, like, oh man, I really wanted this to be over. Why did they have to find me? Why did they have to save me? So I've been there. I really have. But I also realized that it's really happiness and self-acceptance and that peace of mind that will nullify those self-loathing thoughts that cause you to feel depressed and cause you to feel that anxiety and whatever. It's really it's a pretty fast transition if you can kind of start to realize and find that doorway within yourself, because it's an inside job. It really is. It's an inside job. You just have to find the key that opens that. And I think that our work with the Goliath Foundation is helping people to find keys that will open that door. And if this key doesn't work, maybe it's this key, but there's a key out there, and there's not that many keys to choose from, but you have to make it a priority to say, I know there's a key. I'm going to find this key, and when I do, it's going to open the door, and I can walk into the sense of self-assurance, peace, and ease that I've been wanting to have. It's an inside job, though. It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I don't know if that got a bit off topic, but I just really felt like I had maybe in other interviews I've not expressed it clearly enough that I have been a very, very suicidal, very angry, very, very really struggling with mental issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people forget that, because I don't appear to be somebody that would ever have been dealt with that, but yet I have.
Yeah, it's the looking into your neighbor's fence thing, and in all the work that we do, and I think it's important that people know that you did come from a place that was that dark, and that it is possible, because when you're in a place that low, it's so hard to imagine that anybody could get out of it, that you can get out of it. And we've talked about this on the podcast in one of our earliest episodes, but to know that it's even possible to come out of that is huge, is life-saving. And then to fully apply the work that we do with these young men and male identifying individuals, it's important to set the context that, like, yes, you've been the happiest man on earth for 10 years, but that's not coming from a place of, oh, and then I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth and everything was easy, and my dad is Jeff Bezos, and everything's been pretty good and I'm super happy. Why aren't you? It's like, it hasn't been easy. You did have to put the work in, but it sets the context for happiness being possible for everybody. And that's what we talk about every single day at the Goliath Foundation, is that your happiness is possible, and how can we help you find the key to unlock it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shall we move on to question this number? Dos. So if there's, sorry, that's question number 3. I got ahead of myself. I got excited. We're getting to it. So my second question is, why do you think it's so hard for men specifically to open up about their mental health? And Mr. Benjamin, do you want to kick this one off?
I think it's just social conditioning. There's so much of it. So such a huge stigma around, like, men don't ask for help, men don't cry, men are strong, men can figure things out. If you're just strong enough and you're bullheaded enough, and you're, that's what being a man is all about. You don't ask for help. You don't need help. You're a Rambo. You blow your way through every problem, and like it's just such a nonsense, right? But I think it's just kind of like social conditioning, it's driven into us that no, you don't ask for help. That's weak. Don't cry. Don't say I'm struggling. Don't and it's such nonsense, So I think that's kind of one of the big things is why men don't ask for help is because the stigma around it is that it's weak when it's not. It's like the strongest thing you could do is just say, you know what, I need to make sure I'm there for my family, my friends, my community. So, no man is an island. So I'm going to ask for help.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting conversations that the world has had over the last couple of years is about toxic masculinity, and it's been brushed off so many times, especially by men, because it feels like a woman issue because women are the only ones saying toxic masculinity. But I think the most important thing about it is that toxic masculinity hurts men first and foremost. So you should worry about it because it's hurting you. Like we're not it's not about me, it's about you. It's about men don't cry. It's about man up. It's about, get some balls. It's about all of this toxic stuff that hurts you. It's not about me.
Well, I would say this really quickly. Again, I don't want to go too much in my story, but I spent years around like tough guys, leg breakers, literally killers, gangsters, drug dealers. I was a bouncer for years, scrapping, boxing, this and that, and it's all. I wouldn't say all of it. There's an aspect to like boxing is a sport for a lot of people. It's just a sport, but for a lot of that stuff, it's just this toxic masculinity of these little boys who don't know how to find that sense of self-acceptance in them, so they do it like with all these outward things that are labeled now as toxic masculinity when what they're really doing. And again, I know them, they're my friends, they're me, they're people that were all around me. It's like, please help me, I don't know where to turn to. So maybe if I put on this gorilla suit of muscles and tattoos and anger and I don't care, I can get through things, then nobody will realize that inside this gorilla suit, I'm crying for help. I just want to find peace, And so I think that toxic masculinity thing is something that we need to just really just put it on the table. Like, I know you think that being a man and being tough and being brave and not asking for help and this and that it's the solution to what you're feeling inside, but it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's another thing we've talked about on the podcast, but we'll get to that later. James, why do you think it's so hard for men to open up about their mental health?
Well, I mean, it is societal conditioning for sure. Men are conditioned in life to constrict as we age. Women expand as they age, and I think that I don't like to label in terms of masculine, feminine, but it does help to give context, and so this being transparent, this being vulnerable, this being open is more of a feminine quality, if you will. And so men, they're constricting, there's shame, there's ancestral trauma. I mean, dads and dads have been raised a certain way. And, at the end of the day, we talk toxic masculinity and all of that. And it's why I say there's a reason why Neanderthals died out. Okay. And though I think it's important to understand for men out there, it's the work that Ben and I do and in the world, it's we're not trying to take the brave man and have him step forward in a sundress, right? we're trying to find that middle lane for them so that they can honor that bravery, that stoicness, that bravado, while understanding that or embracing more of that feminine quality, if you will, that will allow them to be a more complete human being. And I think, that again, that is what we're doing, right? With these young men in particular, it's making them better human beings. It's not making them a better man, right? This is not a male female conversation. It's how do we become better human beings? And I feel personally, my honest opinion is all of us have to have this magical blend of exactly what we're talking about, masculine, feminine. Mental health is no mental health has been equated to weakness or equated to being vulnerable to expose something. And by that definition, the male, the alpha male, is conditioned not to show weakness. Right? And the real struggle is amongst that herd of alpha females, there's a whole whack of them that are scratching their head going, God, I just want to fucking talk to somebody. But I can't because my brother over here is going to kick me in the behind because I'm acting like a baby.
All right.
Right. And that's the real tragedy in that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I think it's so important that those of us who feel really stable and comfortable in our skin and just can walk that line really comfortably between being strong, having a strong character, being, feeling like a man, but being sensitive enough to just be vulnerable and to be, this is who I am. I mean, what's stronger than that? Just like, this is who I am. I am a man, and I have these male qualities, but I also have these female qualities where I can be sensitive, where I can listen, where I can open up, where I can express myself. I'm man enough to be able to be vulnerable. I'm man enough to be able to bring those, those feminine qualities that are so crucial to making the world a better place, of empathy, of love, of compassion, of wholeness, of all these things. I'm man enough to embrace both sides of myself because it's both sides of all of us. It's just a matter of allowing yourself to be that part of yourself. And when you do, it's just going to be like, wow, I can be me. I'm man enough to be able to expose myself, walk naked out into the world, be who I am, and not be so concerned with everybody else's opinion of me, because this is who I am. And in doing so and finding that strength to do that, all of a sudden, so much of your problems, your mental problems and anxiety and all that stuff just washes away. That is the key, right? So, or a key anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always kind of the difference to me between when your son is, crying and something has happened. It's the difference between telling him you love him and giving him a hug and saying, hey, get it together. It's the difference between having the mentality of, hey, I can just be a dad and hug my son and I can just be there for him, or I can carry on the same things that have been taught to me and been told to me. And we can let that go. It's all right to let those things die out. I think we're ready to be done with them. I think they served a purpose to the people it served. And, that's not the world right now. That's fine. It's okay. So moving on from there, and I do actually want to jump to the last one and then we'll scoot back. So working with men over the last year, especially, doing the cohorts and all the different things we've had our hands in, what's something that you've learned working with guys for the last, well, I guess it's been a year and a bit. We'll say the last year. James, do you want to start? Oh, sorry, Mr. Benjamin, you were raring to go.
Well, I was just going to say, we've been doing the cohorts and stuff like that for a year and a half or whatever, but I've been working with men for a long time through our personal training studio. I was working in the schools doing my anti-bullying program. I had my after-school boxing program. So I've been working with boys and men for a long time, over 20 years.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that I see see most often with young men and men in general is that in the cohort, in everything, in every aspect, what I see most often is it's just not important. It's just not a priority. Mental health is just not a priority. It's like almost every man I talk to in some way or another, until they're completely broken and they surrender, they're saying, I hear what you're saying, but I don't have time. I have to work. I have to, I have bills to pay. I have to take care of I got to do that. I don't have time to chill out. I don't have time to relax. I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to do the work that's going to put me in a place of self-acceptance and groundedness where all this anxiety is going to wash away from me. I don't have time. It sounds great and I wish I could do it, but I don't have time. And it's like, so I would say one of the things I've noticed the most over the years consistently, almost right across the board, is trying to convince one of my jobs, my most important job is trying to convince people that it's the number one priority. You know what? Don't accept overtime work because, well, that's more important than time to myself. Don't accept rushing out the door. I need an extra hour of sleep, so I'm going to rush out the door. I'm going to get into traffic. I'm going to be frustrated there. Then I'm going to get on a job, and I'm going to be frustrated there. And it's going to go on and on and on. And then I'll do it again the next day, the next day, the next day. No, make it a priority to, maybe I won't sleep as much tonight, but I need to get up early and I need to start my day right. And I need to take care of my mind first and get myself grounded. That's the one thing I've noticed. Again, almost right across the board until somebody feels completely broken. It's just not a priority. It's like, well, I'd love to do that, but I just don't have time. It's like, you don't really have time not to.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, James, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think for me, especially in this last year, and I mean, Ben and I, again, we've rolled the same path a lot with coaching and training athletes and dealing that. So, I've dealt with a lot of men, a lot of younger men, coming of age men for sure. And specifically though, it's in reality, there's no difference between a male and a female when you hold space. There's none. And we saw that with the group of young men that we were involved with recently at Goliath, where all you have to do is just hold space and speak truth, and they need it. They want it. They're yearning for it. And so, I haven't met a guy yet, honestly, that hasn't showed some willingness or hand for help, hear me, just hear me. Right. And I think that's the thing. And so it's also a surprise to me because it again, when we just spent time talking about toxic masculinity, and there's this big wall up there, but in actuality, every time I get in front of a guy, there is no wall. It seems to just, so it's like, all we have to do is just hold space. So the more that we do our work with Goliath, and there's other conscious males out there, the more that they hold space, the more that they just, could you imagine the households if every other husband just turned to his wife and said, would you mind listening to me for a few minutes? This is something I got going on.
Yeah, it's world changing, right?
It really is world changing.
I know.
Yeah.
It's I was just going to swear for a second. It's flipping simple. Ben and I always talk about the ABCs. Fucking have a conversation.
It's true.
Turn around.
Right?
Yeah.
It's true, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy that it's so simple, but yet it's so complicated for people.
Yeah, it's interesting, I'm still part of the gaming generation, so I do a lot of gaming with a lot of random people, and you get these big groups of people that you're playing whatever stupid game, but whenever there's quiet. And whenever you've been playing with the same group of people for a minute, it's like I was just playing with a group of people the other day, and one of them was like, "Oh, my girlfriend's texting me. She's mad about this." And everybody stopped what they were doing and listened and talked. And it's like when you're busy doing something else, you don't realize that you're opening up to these strangers, but everybody listens. Everybody's like, "Hey, yeah, what's going on?" And the second that door is open, the second someone says, "Oh, yeah, my girl's texting me. She's mad, but whatever, it doesn't matter." And someone's like, "No, no, what's up?" They just talk. Like, it's crazy how much guys talk over video games. It's insane. You would not believe it. But as soon as somebody opens that door, it's like everything comes out. It's like, and then this happened, and then my dad, and then this, and it's so easy to get people talking because they just want somebody to listen to them. And that's what, that's what Let's Talk Day is all about. It's about, okay, yeah, let's, like, we're listening. We've got we've got our ears out for you. So with that being said, if there's one thing you could say to a guy or anybody, any identity, any orientation, anything, if there's one thing you could say to a person who's out there feeling like they need support and they aren't getting it, what would you say? James, do you want to start this one?
Sure. Well, first off, the cliche phrase, if you will, that I think is super powerful is, you are not alone. Never.
Mhm.
And specifically maybe for some males out there where they feel trapped because they're a male and because of all these things that we just talked about. I'll tie it back to what I just said about space. We all need a stage to talk. We all need a space to let the pressure dissipate from the boiling kettle that is our mental story. So talk, ask. There are tons of support out there for human beings. This is a human being thing, right? There's tons of support out there. Turn, ask, speak, and let go of the notion that something is quote unquote wrong with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That means there's something wrong with about 95% of the human population.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no kidding, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to go off that for a second, I just flashed my thumb for a second, and I have a bunch of these little things that I can fiddle with when I'm in meetings because I have pretty intense ADHD, so focusing is really hard. And you think that you're the only one out there. You're like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy this stupid," like, I've got all sorts of toys on my desk, like stupid things. And when you're figuring those things out about yourself, you're like, "Oh, this is dumb. Nobody else feels that way." But if you were to Google, "Hey, how do I deal with my ADHD?" There's a million other people. There's somebody exactly like you who has written an article for you because it's about them and they are you. Like, there's somebody out there who is going through the exact same thing that you are, and doing it well and successfully and thriving. And you're never alone in what you're going through. You're just you. Nobody is exactly you, but
Yeah.
it's livable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Benjamin?
Well, I would definitely echo what James was saying. Obviously, but I would like to say something that probably might not be that popular with a lot of people, but I really sincerely believe it to be true. And in fact, I wouldn't even say I believe it to be true. I know it to be true. Is that, there's a lot of things, mental issues that people have, so there's some that are way beyond the scope of just the normal anxiety that I would say a majority of people are feeling, because there are some deeper issues that people have to get clinical help for or whatever. So I don't want to discount that. Okay, but I would say for a general state of anxiety and depression that most people suffer who are suffering, learn to be your own best friend, and to do that is really to start the process of meditation. I mean, I know that that's a hard thing for people to hear, but I honestly believe that if everybody could make it a priority to say, this is something that gives me a sense of peace, it gives me, it could be like, for me, I love sitting looking at the ocean. It could be sitting looking at a lake. It could be sitting looking at a tree. It could be watching the pigeons at the park. It could be just sitting on a park bench watching people walk by. But everybody knows something that gives them a sense of just peace, right? Where it's just like, this is nice. This is nice. Make it a priority to do that, every day for a certain amount of time, not to create anything special, not to create anything magical, but just to begin the process of becoming, grounded enough that you can kind of hear that voice of wisdom within yourself, because there is a voice of wisdom within yourself, and you need to be, but to hear it, you need to be like any good friend or good listener. You need to put yourself in a position where you're just, you don't have a lot of distraction, and you can listen, because they're inside all of us is the wisdom that we need to hear. But you have to become friends with yourself, right? And so again, I would say for everybody, if yes, ask for help, find people that you can trust, find people that you can connect with on a regular basis. But really, if not now, when? When are you going to start to become your own best friend? When are you going to start to silence the monster in your head that just keeps running around this hamster wheel? You'll go out, sit on a bench for 15 minutes every day, go for a nice walk where it's nice, someplace that puts you at a sense of peace, and just breathe and just, this is nice. This is nice. This is a nice place to be. I like doing this. I like the fact that I can do this. And as you start to do that, you'll start to find very, very quickly, you'll start to find more peace. Start to find that meditative state where it's just like, I'm at peace with myself. And then you'll start to be able to truly be a friend to yourself, and the answers that you're seeking will start to reveal themselves. Like, you know what? You really are a good person. You really are on your path. You're doing so well. You're doing so well. Maybe if you just did this, maybe if you reached out to that person, maybe if you reignited this thing that you love so much, and that simple act of making yourself a priority and your mental health a priority by saying, you know what, every single day, I'm going to do something. I'm going to sit, I'm going to walk, I'm going to do something that just puts me at a sense of like, this is nice, and just sit with it until you start to become, you know what, I'm a friend to myself again. I'm my own best friend. I will always listen to myself if I give myself the space to do it. And I will always find the answers to the questions that I'm asking of myself if I make it a priority. When I did that for myself, it was just like, boom. Once I opened myself up to being my own best friend, and to listening to to asking the questions like, Ben, how do I find happiness? And I was a friend to myself. I listened. I was calm. I held space for myself, and then as the asker, I stood back and listened again. It was like, oh, it's so easy. It was so easy, But I had to I had to say, you know what? I need to become my own best friend. And I need to like myself and hold space for myself. So I would say for everybody struggling with mental health issues or anxiety or depression or whatever, that would be something that I would recommend everybody do. Just make it a priority to find some way to start to become your own best friend again, and be truly hold space for yourself.
Awesome. Well, someone's computer is trying to update.
That'd be mine.
Oh, James.
Oh,
Uh,
James.
well, thank you both for indulging me and for having this conversation. And on the topic of needing support, our inboxes are always open. There are many ways that you can contact Benjamin and myself. Obviously, here on Facebook is fantastic. We're also on Instagram as Loving Goliath. You can reach out to us at our email at lovinggoliath@gmail.com, and you can find out more information about the Goliath Foundation at thegoliathfoundation.com. You got my podcast sign off. There you go.
Also,
Yes.
if you're in Gibson's and you're near the water, you could also just say, "Hey, bad, where are you?" I'll probably be something like that.
He comes running.
Here, I'm coming.
He rips off his dad's sweater and has another dad sweater underneath, and just and James, do you want to pitch your socials where folks can reach out to you as well?
Sure. Obviously on Facebook, this will be on my feed as well. Instagram at James Gardner __ you'll see me there. That's a big one. Obviously LinkedIn, James Gardner everywhere. James Gardner everywhere. My tagline, James Gardner everywhere. theherowithin.ca. So you can reach out to me there. Of course, my email's on there as well. Facebook Message, anything like that. Door is always open. My ears are always big and listening. So I'm here for everybody, for sure.
Yeah. Our inboxes are always open, and if you feel like you need extra support, we're not running another cohort right now, but we are offering one-on-ones with Mr. Benjamin at the moment, and you can reach out to us. We have our podcasts over on Anchor, Loving Goliath. So, like I said, we talked about a couple things here that we've talked about on the podcast at length. So feel free to check that out. And thank you.
Awesome.
Is it suitable to say Happy Bell Let's Talk Day, or
Absolutely.
Sure, why not?
Happy Bell Let's Talk Day?
Yeah, and let's celebrate it. Like, we're all in this together. So, happy Let's Talk Day.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.